Here's Shed. Off the window, no. Roberts tried to get it. Shed for the win. Got it. Jamal Shed plays the hero again.
Back to pass. Donovan Smith. Smith steps up in the pocket, unloads it, throws it all the way downfield into the end zone. Tipped, and it is caught. Caught by the Cougars. Caught for a touchdown. Unbelievable. Caught by Stephon Johnson.
Stick it in your pipe and smoke it, baby. Yes!
Welcome to the Scott Home Podcast, early May edition. We might be entering the lazy days of summer, but when it comes to us covering the University of Houston sports teams here, it's never a lazy host summer. We're, even during what could be the lighter part of the season, there's always plenty of stuff to talk about. That's the great thing about doing a college sports podcast is that inevitably, unless this is a period of June, July, or some of August, there's going to be college sports going on. And we have plenty of Cougar happens to talk about, some off-season stuff, as well as sport we haven't talked about this season that narrows it down at all for those of you listening as well. A segment that I have no idea what's going to be well, other than just a placeholder segment in this show. That's a first in almost 600 episodes of doing the show. Bobby, my friend, my co-host, my fellow fan of an AHL team that's still in the playoffs, and also fan of an NBA team that's not in the playoffs. How are you doing, friend?
I'm good, buddy.
I gave you so much crap about the Mavs. I had to at least try that train a little bit with the Rockets finding a way to give me hope, and then spitting the bit, classic fashion in Game 7.
Did I tell you at the end of the Lakers series? I don't know if I told you this story. One of my friends, he's an NHL guy or an NBA guy, right? And we're talking, and after the last Lakers possession where I can't remember who shot the three, but it wasn't LeBron or Luka. I texted him and I was like, how does Luka and LeBron not get that shot there? He was like, it's the smart basketball play. And I was like, you're right, it was, because they brought the double, but you have to design a play better than that, right? And he goes, the Lakers' problem is they need a big man. And I just texted him almost immediately. And I was like, you think they'll trade for AD? And he was like, dude.
So, not in this lifetime, pal.
But no, everything's good over here in Dallas. It's rainy, kind of gross. But I will, exciting for us as friends, I will be in your town next week. So I don't think we've discussed if we're going to record or if we're going to take next week off or what we're going to do. But I am lucky to be in Viva Las Vegas next week and seeing you in person. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, we'll be happy to see you, obviously. And of course, happy to, get I guess from your company some small amount of out-of-towner dollars as the backbone of what makes stuff happen here. And you're the backbone of what makes stuff happen here in this show is Bobby.
What's that, bud?
It's our Patreon at patreon.com/shpodcast. We know not everyone listening can donate. We appreciate those of you, even if you are just someone who's listened with us for some amount of time here in the free feed. We don't take that for granted, but we really, really appreciate the fact that there are a not small number of you out there that are willing to support the work that Bobby and I do here on a weekly basis, that take some of their hard-earned discretionary income and give it to us here for doing a weekly independent Houston Cougar show. We got we've been talking about it a while, but we've even added to the list. Like, we've got a not short list of stuff that's going on the premium feed here. So if you're someone who's, worried about the 2.5-ish months of no Cougar sports that we have going on the horizon, Bob and I got a ton of stuff going on over there. We'll give you all a taste of it in the free feed, but obviously got to give a little something to the folks that have supported us. And if that is not you right now and you would like to be, please consider going to patreon.com/shpodcast. Please also consider supporting our friends at Charlie Hustle on the World Wide Web at charliehustle.com, making incredibly comfortable vintage collegiate wearables, including a robust selection of stuff from your Houston Cougars, quarter zips, t-shirts, crew necks, hoodies. If you want a Cougar wearable, they've got it. Great vintage designs. Bobby and I have some just personal favorites in our own, collection, whether that's, the golf wear, the racket sport wear, in our respective lives, like a lot of Charlie Hustle in there. And you can support us and use our network promo code 1012 network, TEN12 network. That's the Big 12 network that we are proud to be part of, and also proud to be partnering with our good friends at Charlie Hustle. So go to charliehustle.com, use that promo code 1012 network, save 15% and get yourself some very comfortable wearables. And of course, as I've said a number of times now, support our show in the process, by doing so, Bobby, first time this season, we're going to be leading with Houston Cougar baseball.
Let's do it.
Because sometimes a sport kind of, I'm doing the heavy air quotes here, earns their way to being the lead team on this show. Cougar men's basketball did it many, many weeks by being, a truly elite program. A little more humble here, but Cougar baseball, I think, still did precisely that in a week where they really, really had to have a good week. You got to a good start with that win over McNeese and got a critical Big 12 home series sweep of the Utah Utes. Bobby, where would you like to start from the past week that was for the baseballers?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you got to kind of talk about here is the fact that the Cougs did get the sweep. That is huge to making the conference tournament. Every part of your team looked good this weekend. You get the walk-off on Friday, I believe. You get the walk-off on Friday, score 3 runs, bottom 9th. That's always just a fun experience being a part of that. Then you come out and you have a pretty good game on Saturday where you put up runs and your bullpen looks very good, held by one guy who has just kind of been dominant all season for you. And then Sunday you get your classic bullpen game where you have 7 pitchers, I want to say is how many I counted. Maybe I'm incorrect there, but you use 7 pitchers. You get the win. You hold Utah to 4 runs. Just a good all-around performance from this team, and we said they needed 2 or 3 in this weekend. A sweep would have been kind of the cherry on top. Sam, we got the cherry on top. That's a really good performance. So, what about you? What was kind of some of your big takeaways from the weekend?
One thing I go back to is this was pretty close to being a potentially very different weekend. I was able to watch a bit more of this series live as it happened than usual. Not just because of how important a series it was, that was part of it, but this weekend's games just kind of coincidentally lined up with my schedule. I had an earlier game on Friday that I was able to kind of watch as I was getting out of the office for the weekend because they moved that up due to weather. They actually ended up finishing it on Saturday because of I think it was like the 7th inning. They moved it to Saturday due to just weather coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And as I watched and kind of followed it later, I wasn't able to watch live the finish. Friday's game, the opener, really felt like one of those baseball games where we'd come back here and just say, man, the poor situational hitting. Oh, you had some opportunities early on to win it and didn't. You got a couple runs early, but I double-checked this because I remember in real time thinking, God, we're leaving a lot of guys on base. The Cougs left 13 guys on base in the first 6 innings. That's over 2 guys per inning on average.
Yeah, not
on
great.
Friday. And thus, when the game got called or postponed due to the weather there at the bottom of the 7th inning, it kind of felt like it was going to the 9th inning. You were still down 4-2. You really started to sweat there. I mean, not that Utah wasn't a very good team, a team that this U of H team, for any of its warts, you would have expected to at least take the series against, but you see it so often in baseball that first game in the series goes that your way. It's not impossible to come back from it, but in a series where you really felt like you needed to make hay, you didn't want to start out from behind. You had that great 3-run 9th inning rally in the opener. Xavier Perez walk-off double. Again, every game is its own entity, and you can't guarantee this weekend would have gone any different way beyond obviously not taking all 3 games if the Cougars lose the opener. But I don't think I'm talking crazy here to say that going back and finding a way to win late on Friday was a big tone setter. And I think what I appreciate most from the other 2 games, you just didn't see the Cougs really play around with their food, other than Utah taking a very early lead in the Saturday night game. If you watched either of the final 2 games of the series or followed them in some way live, there wasn't too much drama by about midway in the game that, you looked at that. I mean, not that Utah could have theoretically come back. It's a great thing about baseball. It's not timed. You see crazy stuff like that happen, but you didn't figure that U of H was going to find a way to lose either of those. As much as I'm not confidence-wise and never will be confidence-wise with this team where I was, teams 7, 8, 9 years ago in this program. I looked at about the 6th, 7th inning in both those games and kind of said to myself, I would be very surprised if we lose either of these. And the Cougs really didn't mess around in either of them. So I'll get to my pitcher of the week and hitter of the week. I want to preface my pitcher of the week by saying you could 100% give it to Antoine Jean. you could 100% give it to Antoine John just about every week that we have done a pitcher and hit of the week. He threw a scoreless inning of relief on Friday when you were really trying to let Utah not get any more of a lead, and threw 4 scoreless to finish off the game on Saturday evening. He was outstanding this weekend. He's been outstanding for basically the entire season. Will be among the better Cougar athletes from this sports season, regardless of the sport you're talking about. But I still gave it to Chris Cinta for his spot start on Friday, getting to the 5th inning, ultimately throwing 4 1/3 innings of 2-run ball. Was his first ever U of H start, I believe second in his entire college career. He started at the University of Miami. Because I really do think a big part of U of H getting the sweep this weekend was the fact that, other than your planned bullpen game that you mentioned on Sunday, you didn't have a starter bomb out in any of the games where, when Cinta on Friday and Paul Schmitz on Saturday, neither guy went super deep, but neither guy got knocked out of the game in the 2nd inning, which I think would have really made getting the sweep this weekend, a valuable sweep, much harder. Let's say Cinta, his Friday night performance was his longest outing since joining the U of H program. He gave you quality innings when you really, really needed him to give you quality innings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
That was it.
No, I was going to, that's a great answer there. I am going to go with Antoine John, though. He gives you an inning pitched on Friday, kind of holds it up for the Cougs, kind of gets you into the 7th for Malachi Lott to kind of come in, get the win, actually. I could also say you kind of want to give it to Malachi Lott there, getting the win. Pitches pretty well on Sunday, gives up 2 earned runs, but yeah, I'm going to go with Antoine again. He gives you that 1 inning on Friday, and then he gives you 4 scoreless on Saturday. Hard to argue with those kind of results here, bud.
No doubt. Glad you mentioned Malachi Lott, because the 2 innings to close out, I think he pitched both the innings after the Saturday resumption, I want to say, in the opener. Very important scoreless, hitless innings from him. Like, it hasn't been your best guy this year, but has given you some critical innings. Like, you go find some of this team's better wins this year. I do believe like Malachi Lott was on in relief in those. Didn't get nearly as cute with my hitter of the week pick. I had to go Xavier Perez.
That's who I had to.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like, also no, I didn't push back on the Antoine John pitcher pick there, because like you could give it to him just about every week. He has been unbelievably good for you. Is the number one individual bright spot on this year's team. A team that doesn't have 0 bright spots outside of him. But Xavier Perez has multiple hits, had the walk-off double in the series opener, which I think we've both mentioned. 3 RBIs in the series clincher on Saturday night. Went 3 for 5 with a dinger in the finale as well. For good measure, also from the midweeker against McNeese, had an RBI double in that one. A pretty low-scoring 4-3 win. Couldn't go with anyone but Perez. And he's really stepped up in a major way, as previous lineup mainstays like Connor McGinnis and Carson Sabathia have missed extensive time in Big 12 play injured, desperately needed Xavier Perez to step up, and he has made a good case for himself to be your best hitter this season. And so he was not one of the first transfers we talked about when we kind of looked at this very unknown roster, but he's just been fantastic for you.
Yeah, absolutely. He's looked really good. This was a great weekend for him. Got the home run on Sunday. So just a great kind of insert player here. To your point, transfer. He goes 3 for 5 on Sunday with 2 RBIs and has the home run as well. Scores 2 runs. So just you could give it to him almost on Sunday alone. But he also had a great Saturday, going 1 for 3 with a walk. That's huge. Friday could have gone a little bit better, 2 for 6, but did get the RBI. Overall, tough not to give it to him this weekend.
Yeah, it's a big test of the hitter. He's 1 for 5 going to that bat. Hasn't had a catastrophic game, but again, 1 for 5 is usually not anyone's idea of a great game. Like, you want a guy who still has the confidence to get up there and deliver like Perez did.
Yep.
If you'll allow me, Bobby, before we get to another big week here late in the Cougar baseball season, if I could update the listeners on where the Cougars are in terms of qualifying and seeding for the conference tournament.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's our main focus here, is this team really isn't in the picture to have an at-large postseason resume. Your path to the postseason is the Big 12 tournament. And what we talked about a lot in the lead up to the Utah series is how big a sweep or even just a series win would be for the Cougs, putting some breathing room, because this isn't a situation like softball where 100% field qualifies. We're a lot of the conference tournaments where 100% of the participating Big 12 teams qualify in some way. It is only the top 12 of 14. I guess only 12, 14 is still the majority of the field, but you have to be one of the top 12 teams in the standings when it's all said and done. The Cougars did a whole lot to get themselves within that group here in a few weeks when the regular season is done. A couple weeks, I guess. Two teams right now that are coming up on the schedule for the Cougs, and I was going to say, tough ones. Arizona State, which we'll talk about this coming weekend, and then your home finale, regular season finale series against Arizona 2 weekends from now, both NCAA tournament teams. If U of H goes 0-6 in those two series, you're not in such a good position right now that an 0-6 finish would make you sweat being in the Big 12 postseason cutoff a bit, but U of H has certainly from the past weekend given itself the inside track to being among the top 12 in the Big 12 standings. And do what the program didn't do last year and give itself a chance to play in the NCAA postseason. As much as this season hasn't in some ways measured up. I mean, with 2 series to go, you already have 3 more Big 12 wins than you did last year. It's been a better team. Better enough for the fan base's satisfaction. Better enough to, overlook the fact that it's been a long time since the team of the NCAA tournament. I don't think so, but just talk about this team as it is better. So quick look at the remaining schedules, if you will allow me, Bobby, of the teams in and around kind of the cut line to make the tournament. Reminder, U of H is currently 10-13 in Big 12 play after that sweep of Utah. As of recording tonight, the Cougs are 3.5 games up on BYU, who, if the season ended tonight, would be the 12th and final team to make the Big 12 tournament. U of H would be the 10th seed if the season ended today, with Baylor in between the 2 Cougar mascot schools. Utah, scientific definition here, Bobby, they are cooked. They need to take at least 1 of 3 in this series this past weekend to keep their heads above water. They're 5-19 and are going to finish their regular season with series against Arizona and TCU, 2 surefire postseason teams, and 2 series where I think Utah will struggle to take 1 game total out of them. They need to win both those series to even keep themselves in the postseason picture, and that seems pretty unlikely. UCF would be the other team right now that would join Utah as failing to qualify for the Big 12 tournament if the season ended today. They go to Texas Tech this weekend. Not an easy roadie, certainly not a short roadie, but the Red Raiders have been weirdly up and down this season, and then the Knights close the regular season by hosting Baylor. Pretty winnable series. They're kind of a wild card because UCF's been great in the midweek and have just kind of stunk against Big 12 opponents on weekends. Currently on a 6-game conference losing streak. Mentioned BYU a bit ago. The Cougs with the U are 1 game up on UCF for that final Big 12 postseason spot. They've got a really challenging road series at Kansas this weekend, and then they host Texas Tech in Provo the final weekend of the regular season. And we'll just mention Baylor, who's between U of H and BYU currently. They host Oklahoma State this weekend. We'll go to UCF the final weekend of the season, even though they're a half game behind the Cougs in the standings. I think notable to me when I did a quick scan of their schedule, the Bears have not been swept by anyone this season, have a bit more of a manageable closing schedule than the Cougars. So, Bobby, I'll stop talking and just say my final prediction would be U of H gets in the Big 12 field as the 11 seed. Baylor, by dint of, I think, a more manageable closing schedule, jumps U of H for the 10. UCF jumps BYU for the 12th and final spot, and the 2 Utah Big 12 programs, BYU and Utah, will be the ones to not play in the conference postseason in Arlington here in a couple weeks. I'm putting my claim to the public record on that one.
I like it, buddy. I kind of have to agree with you, kind of looking at future schedules and things like that. It's hard for me to disagree with you there. I definitely think that the Cougs, as long as they don't go too crazy and lose their minds, I think are looking at a return to Big 12 play, I guess. I don't know why I was like the Big 12 tournament play. Sorry, I was gonna say
it will be actually. I was gonna say it'll be the first time we play. I think it was in Arlington last year. It'll be Cougar baseball's first trip to good old Minute Maid Park there in your neck of the woods.
Minute Maid Park. I hate you.
I didn't even have that notes either. Completely
I
off.
hate you so much.
Sorry, just so not every Ranger fan and my co-host here gets mad at me. Globe Life Park. It's Globe Life Park, not Field, right?
Correct, because
Globe Life Park.
It's Globe Life Field, because it used to be called the ballpark. The old one was the ballpark.
Was it too sacrilege to reuse ballpark?
I guess. I don't know.
Globe Life. They will be at Globe Life Field to play in the Big 12 tournament. Hopefully U of H will be among those teams. I think we both believe, even as biased U of H fans here, that the Coogs with 2 O's will be among those
Are
teams.
we biased? Interesting.
A little bit. And as we record, the Cougs were supposed to be hosting Texas A&M at Schrader Park and wearing their snazzy Houston blue uniforms, but the game was called due to rain in the Houston area, and said snazzy blue uniforms will be worn for the final home series opener, I believe, the Thursday after next against the Arizona Wildcats. Which leaves us with our main focus in the week to come, Houston Cougar baseball traveling to the Valley of the Sun, Phoenix, Arizona. And before anyone gets pedantic, ASU's baseball facility is in Phoenix, not Tempe, where the rest of the school is, to take on the Arizona State Sun Devils. An ASU program, I went back and looked at this. I knew about this one. I did not know the first guy. I didn't know about the second one here. A program that produced Barry Bonds and Reggie Jackson. Like, I know neither guy played at Arizona State baseball, especially recently, but that's like 2 of the all-time like best hitters in the last like 50-something years.
That's pretty good.
And in Bond's case, like best of all time, whatever you think of him, and numerous other past, present MLBers. And ASU's reputation has kind of been more underachieving the last 10 or 15 years, but have been a very good Big 12 program their first season here in the league. Very much look like they'll be back in the NCAAs this postseason. Speaking of, I was going to say, former ASU MLBers, random guy who played for a bunch of different teams, Willie Bloomquist from 10 or 15 years ago has been their manager. I think this is his 3rd season there with the Sun Devils. Bobby, my biggest takeaway, really, really good lineup. 9 guys who have hit at least 5 home runs this season. Clearly a team that can hit for power, though. I think teams who play home games in desert climates like ASU does generally do well for power, but also hit for average, have stolen 102 bases to date. U of H's pitching staff has had some not terrible weekends against some better Big 12 lineups. I think K-State most recently, even in a series loss, you could look back at that one and say, hey, the Cougs gave themselves a chance to win 2 of the 3 there. But ASU is going, both the challenge of facing ASU's lineup, the challenge of playing in a much more hitter-friendly climate. It's going to be tough this weekend, man. This is very much a hope for 1 or 3 kind of series you're looking at.
Yeah, I think with to all your points, this team can definitely hit, and this pitching staff can definitely hold their own at times. But yeah, you're really hoping that you get one here and just kind of hold serve on. Did I make the good tennis reference there? Was that a correct tennis reference?
Nailed it, bud.
Let's go. So you're gonna try and hold serve here and just try and maintain to keep yourself in the Big 12 tournament. Like you said, if you go 0-6 in the next 6 Big 12 games, I don't know if you have that much of a lead. So you really need at least 1 of 3 here.
And if you want to give yourself a little bit of optimism, Arizona State actually has a slightly worse ERA than U of H and similar walk numbers, but they are very, very good as a pitching staff at missing bats, which I think has periodically been an issue for U of H this season. So the goal is to take 1 of 3 games, like we've both said. Anything more is a nice, wonderful bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And we certainly couldn't wait any further to talk about a couple programs, one in the middle of playing the NCAAs, one that will be playing in the NCAAs very soon. We're going to go to a quiet little verdant place that we get to call Cougar Golf Corner.
Welcome to Cougar Golf Corner. We are going to start here with the lead story being the women's golf team is currently playing in Columbus, Ohio for the in their regional. Now, just to refresh, the top 5 teams make it to the NCAA championships in San Diego as a team, and then they will take the highest individual player who did not make the whose team did not advance. They will also take them. Now, why did I mention that second part? Well, let's start off with the team standings here. Your Houston Cougars are currently 4 off the cut line. It looks like the top 3 spots or the top 4 spots are pretty much going to be accounted for. Something crazy could happen, kind of like what happened to U of H in the Big 12 championships. But you have Arkansas, UNLV, Go Rebs for Sam over there. UNLV kind of jumping over their standings. Kansas and Ohio State all within 2 shots of each other. Arkansas is leading at 4 over. Ohio State in 4th place, or tied for 3rd, with Kansas is at 6 over. So it's going to be interesting what happens up there at the top. But that 5th and final advancing spot, you have SMU at 16 over. Then you have LSU, number 10 in the country, LSU, at 17 over. You have Kent State at 17 over. Then you have the Cougs 4 shots off there. Now, that is within reason. Cougs had a pretty bad first round when you kind of look at it. 7 over doesn't seem that bad, but the leaders went off at 9 under. You had a 6 under, a 1 under here. So you definitely were not doing well after round 1, but the Cougs come out fire a 13 over today. Good for 3rd place on the day, but 8th overall. But again, only 4 shots out. So there's some reason to be to have some optimism here. The problem is you also have to jump 2 teams, right? So you got to hope 3 teams. You got to beat 3 teams, and you got to beat them by 4 or 5 strokes, and that's hard to do. So just kind of frankly speaking there. Now, can it happen? Absolutely. And do I think the Cougs are going to make it super interesting tomorrow? Absolutely. I have full faith in the team there. But something kind of interesting is unfolding here. Like I said, the top individual who is not on an advancing team gets to go to the NCAA championships. And currently that player is Moa Saviniskold. So if if Houston for some reason doesn't advance, the Cougs very well could still have a representative in San Diego for the NCAA championships. She is currently actually 4 shots back of the lead of the regional, which is super exciting as well. Her nearest competitor, who would be at this point would be the person who would take it from her, would be Vanessa Zhang from Harvard, who is 1 shot back of Moa. So if Moa can go low tomorrow, there's a good chance, even if the Cougs don't advance, that she does get the advance, and that's really exciting no matter how you look at it there. So Sam, any thoughts on the women's golf team and what's happening over in Columbus right now?
I was gonna say, you did do today, the second round, better than a lot of your opponents did. It seemed like really just across the board. Obviously, the teams near the top did better. It's part of how they stayed near the top. But the Cougars did very, like, you were a pretty bad way after the first. Like, you were in a more conceivable place to potentially get to the cut line to advance here. But I think you're correct in the assessment that not super likely. You're going to need some unlikely-ish stuff to happen. Not impossible stuff, not even like miracle stuff, but you're gonna need a lot of teams around you to play bad golf, and you to play by far your best golf of the entire regional to get there.
Yeah, I think if you can go low like you did again today, not necessarily super low, right? I think if you can stay there and kind of shoot around that number again, I think you got a good shot of advancing.
Yeah, you get down to maybe like 5 over as a team while everyone around you still shooting like 9, 10 over. Like then the math starts mathing, but again, you still need to play your best golf. And I believe, so I didn't put this in my notes, but I believe that if Moa is able to advance individually and the Cougars do, kind of the most statistically likely thing and not advance as a team here, I believe she joins Leonie Harm for sure, and I believe Karen Fredgaard also.
I feel the same too. That was surprisingly hard to find, that information of how many people have advanced to NCAA,
I know for sure Leonie Harm did.
Yeah.
Cougars have never done as a team, which you and I have both noted at separate previous golf corners. Leonie Harm for sure did. I believe Karen Fredgaard did.
I believe that's true as well.
Did as well, and I believe that was the season she did end up being her last. I think she elected to go pro her junior sophomore season after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, hope it's the team going, but obviously rooting for Moa if the Cougars can't pull off the unlikely.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's going to help the Cougs advance is Moa having a good round and being in a spot where she could advance if they don't do it, because you have some people kind of breathing down her neck. If she can go 2-3 under tomorrow, that solidifies her as advancing, but also would really help the Cougs cause tomorrow. So still not out of it. It's not like you're 15 strokes out or anything crazy like that. You're within 5. There's 5 players. If all your players shoot even and all you got to do is beat the other team by 1 stroke a player. I think you can do it. So that's kind of what is looking like tomorrow. Tee times are at, I want to say 8 a.m., maybe 7 a.m. Central. And now we are going to turn to the men's.
Real quick.
Yeah, sorry.
Still Cougar Golf Corner. To touch something we did earlier. Yes, Karen Fredgar went to the 2021. That was that weird tournament where it was actually
LSU canceled because it was.
Yeah, it was consistent weather stuff, and instead of it just moving stuff around, they're just like, yeah, sorry, the highest seeded teams advance here,
which was ridiculous. But anyways,
and Fredgar, I think, is like Fredgar's is because
was
of her,
the highest ranked.
So
because I'm pretty sure didn't she play in the Augusta Women's National?
I believe so, but I'm not
like
as sure
if I
about
recall,
that.
she did pretty well in it. If I can like just kind of pull that out of my brain, just out of nowhere. So I'm going to move on to the men while I can tell, just because we have video of each other on, so we're not talking to a blank screen. I can tell you're looking that up, but I'm going to talk men's golf, and then we can talk about it if we want to at the end. So we will talk men's golf. The men did make it to the NCAA tournament. They are headed to Urbana. Is that how you say it? Urbana. I don't know why. I've always forgotten that. They are headed to an event to a regional hosted by Illinois. They come in as the 7th seed, so not a favorite to advance. You do have 2 other teams from the Big 12 in it. Your number 1 seed is going to be Oklahoma State. You also have number 4. The 4 seed is Texas Tech. You're in a spot as a 7 seed where they believe you might be able to compete just a little bit. So don't count the Coogs out here. It's going to be tough. Can you beat Long Beach State and UNLV? That's really where it's going to boil down to. But you're in the fighting kind of area there for it. So one of the things that I kind of noticed with the women's tournament is it's very odd because the what's the word I'm looking for? The host team isn't the one who's always.
That's right. They pick it in advance, right?
Because they pick it in advance. Because,
yeah, I get with logistics of a golf course, you can't just be all right, sorry everyone with tee times.
Exactly.
On the 10th, 11th, and 12th, you're beat.
Now
you got
canceled.
college golf here, yeah.
Yep. So, but you see, especially early on in the regional for the women, you saw Ohio State on their home course as a 3 seed come out, fire 9 under, and just kind of all the secrets. So just kind of weird to see that. You see it here with Illinois being the 3 seed in the and hosting the regional. Interesting thing about Illinois, they also have one of the most incredible practice facilities that I've ever seen in my life. That probably, just to be honest, has something to do with with their ability to host a regional. One, I bet the weather is perfect. There's very little chance of crazy weather. Like you have in Dallas or Houston or even Vegas that you were saying right now. Outside of Indianapolis, the weather's perfect. But they have a beautiful facility as well. So just there's a lot of space for college golfers. I'm sure they have a workshop for clubs where players can go in and change things based on grasses and things like that. So I think that really plays a role in who has the ability to host as well. So just kind of interesting there. No huge preview of it. The Cougs, like I said, you'd really like to see them advance. But it'll be going on next week from the 12th to the 14th. So we'll be watching that while I am in Las Vegas, bud.
I also didn't even think about it, but it makes perfect sense. The advantage that you have as a hosting program, no other sport. Cause baseball fields have their, they have their quirks, but
Clemson doesn't have a warning track. They have a hill that leads up to their fence.
Oh wow, they're going early 21st century Astros on that one. I didn't know that.
It's the most insane thing. I was watching a Clemson regional last year, and I was like, why is there no warning track? And I looked it up, and yeah, they have a small incline that tells you you're getting close to the wall.
Yeah, and some park. Yeah, no. It's some parks are a little weird dimension wise, but it's probably fairly standard across the board. And other there's not, as funny as it would be, there aren't basketball venues with 80-foot courts instead of 90-foot and stuff like that. But And I know there are things standardized with the golf course, but like, yeah, there's so much like course specific stuff and how much golf is like battling the course.
Yeah, you gotta. Is this bunker in play? Can I, if I get too close to the bunker, if I fly it here, what's the angle I have into the green? What's the preferred angle into the green? So I take the bunker out of play or this water out of play.
No doubt, like, it is. I get it. You can't just have like the regionals at completely neutral sites because there's logistics up booking courses that don't have affiliation with a college, and having your regulars not be able to play a course for like three full days probably a tough sell for even well off golf courses. So yeah, excited. We'll be definitely following along while you're out here next week, and hoping the Cougar men do like they did in the Big 12 tournament and exceed our expectations for what they're going to do in the postseason.
Yes, sir.
So real quick, because we're almost contractually obligated, not really, but to talk about something football or men's basketball related, and we actually had a pretty rare kind of men's basketball news item happened. Kelvin Sampson hired a new assistant coach, which is in itself pretty uncommon. He's had unbelievable stability on his coaching staff, and even more uncommon, said new assistant coach was not somebody already on staff at U of H, as Sampson hired Mike Ekanem from Oklahoma State, where Ekanem had served this past season in Stillwater as an assistant coach. Bobby, the last time Sampson hired an assistant coach who was not already on staff in some way, for example, Casey Beard, who's been an assistant the last 3-4 seasons, was previously Cougar video coordinator and replaced Alvin Brooks when he took the head job at Lamar. The last time was 2017 when Quantus White, the guy who Ekanem is being hired to replace, was hired I believe before the 2017-2018 season, obviously just hired to be Ooh La La's head coach. Really, really hard to overstate how insanely stable this staff has been. As much as a lot of it is about the big man in charge of the program having a true legend of the sport and an incredible coach in Kelvin Sampson, doesn't hurt to have largely the same. Even really good programs don't have that stability because really good program assistant coaches, what do they get? Where do they go, Bobby? They go to be head coaches to other ones, you know?
Yep.
Like Duke. Blue Bloods, they actually lost an assistant before the tournament, Jay Lucas.
Yeah.
To go be Miami's head
one.
coach. Like, yeah, that's that kind of thing. Fairly common, even at the most moneyed programs. I don't think, before we get into the resume of Ekanem, someone I think we're both pretty excited about joining the program, just worth noting, like how much of this program's incredible success is not just hiring the right assistants, though it's very much that, but incredible stability. So get to Mike Ekanem pretty quickly. Before his season at Oklahoma State last year, served the previous two as an assistant coach at George Mason and Sam Houston, respectively. At both those programs, Ekanem coached good defensive teams. That Sam Houston team 2 seasons ago actually won a school record 26 games and went to the second round of the NIT, which I don't want to sound condescending, not a small thing at Sam Houston. That was a very good season. There was good enough. Their head coach at the time, Jason Hooten, got hired by New Mexico State. So it was part of a good season there. Previously served as a support staffer at programs like Arkansas, Memphis, Nevada, Reno, and Texas A&M. The Sampson connection here is a pretty interesting one. It goes back even further. Ekanem actually started his career in basketball as an operations assistant with the San Antonio Spurs and their WNBA affiliate at the time, the San Antonio Silver Stars. Would have been there at the same time that Sampson was consulting for Greg Popovich. And certainly Popovich is somebody Sampson's been close with since then. So I would imagine Pop at least had some word in there as well. I think my last thought here before I pass it off to you, Bobby, it's really gotten to the point where the two of us and anyone who considers themselves a U of H fan should probably just give Kelvin Sampson the benefit of the doubt on any coaching and roster moves. Even if you're just like, well, I'm not sure. I don't know this guy fairly well. I don't know, man. Sampson's hitting a pretty high rate on anything good with this program. So chances are that's the case here. But I would say Ekanem seems like a good hire on the merits. Bobby, I know I've talked a lot here already, but what have you learned about the newest assistant?
Yeah, I think to the point that you made, I think the most interesting part is the Ekanem is where he met Sampson is with the Spurs. I think that's just such an interesting thing whenever you get a new coach and you see coaches get hired in different places, is what's the connection. And it's really, you can tell this is a big step up for Ekanem here, going from being just a video guy for for the Spurs, and you kind of help with game preparation, video skill development. You're just kind of generic, and you see the progress here. I think it's much more of a fun lesson in networking and making sure that a podcast you and I listen to quite often always says, just be a good hang, right? Like if you want to get far in life, just be a good hang. And it seems Ekanem is, if you're able to keep a contact with somebody like Kelvin Sampson for 15 years and he wants to bring you onto his staff, I gotta trust that somebody Greg Popovich trusts is a pretty good coach, and somebody Kelvin Sampson says I want on my staff is a pretty good coach. So look, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, I'm this expert and I know his coaching philosophies and things like that. But I definitely put the faith in Popovich and Sampson to know kind of what they're talking about when it comes to coaches.
As I said at the top, for the first time in, we don't really count the episodes, but I think we're somewhere between 550 and 600 recorded between the late summer, early fall of 2015 and now. For the first time, I'm getting on here with one of the two guys I've co-hosted this podcast with, and I have no idea what this segment is going to be. So, Bobby, 47 minutes in here, tell me what you're about to do. You got some papers in your hand. That's how I know you're serious. So we were like setting up for the segment. So, tell me what you got going on here. I am so curious.
All right. So there's a trend on social media that is like blind rank these 5 items, right? And they give them to you like that. And I finally heard one that inspired me. And it was rank these 5 sports themes. Okay, so like sporting event themes. So it was like the Masters, Fox NFL, that, right? And I was like, how can I turn this into a podcast on what is inevitably going to be a slow week? And I said, Sam, you are going to blind rank these 5 songs played by the Spirit of Houston. Okay?
Okay.
So I want you to blind rank them. There are 5 options, and you don't know what's coming next. That's why I didn't want to tell you what we were going to do, because if I told you, you would be like, oh, he's going to say this song, this song, this song. Okay?
I'm just taking so I have it, so I don't want to ask you to repeat and subject our listeners to be like, listen, you idiot. I'm just going to type them as you say it. Okay.
So number 1, your first song on a scale, or not on a scale, but you got to rank it 1 through 5, is when the band plays Hustlin'.
Because I know 4 are coming, and I know 4 ones that are going to at least give me some kind of tough decision to make. 3, only because for me, and this goes back to when it was like the 2006 season, because it really very organically, like they would just play it at halftime because it was a big song in the fall of 2006. And
then we had like some crazy comebacks.
Yes,
so
we had some comebacks. And 2006 was, I always say on the show, is genuinely one of the most underrated big seasons for Houston Cougar football. Like, was it as big as 2015? Even as like 2011 got more profile even as a non-championship winning team. But 2006 was a big one. It organically, we had some second half comebacks that playing over the loudspeaker. So it's less of a, like the Houston, the Spirit of Houston version of it is good. I like it, but I can't rank it higher than 3. So we're putting Hustle at 3.
All right. Next up is the Cougar fight song. That one's tough, right?
It's
that
tough.
One's tough because you know some bangers. There's a chance some bangers are coming.
I'm gonna say 2. It never fails to get me fired up when I hear it in person, whether it's the basketball band or the Spirit of Houston football game playing it. I'm gonna say 2 because I know some bangers are coming, but I could not in good conscience rank the Cougar fight song lower than 2.
All right, here's where it's about to get very difficult.
Oh,
next up is Womp Womp.
That's kind of the one I had in my head where I was just like, you can't, Womp Womp is somewhere still out there, so you can't put anything above that. 1. I know some good ones are probably coming here, but 1. And frankly, I don't think I'm gonna regret that one or the Cougar fight song, but I think I might have had Hustlin' a little high, but we're sticking with it. I'm not changing it. It was my gut reaction, so I'm sticking with the 3 on that. But 1, I just speaking of songs that give me like fired up, like come on, it's like it's Womp Womp and how it organically kind of the same way Hustlin' did, but more as like a played in the stadium on the loudspeakers, really organically kind of became like the song of a big season we had. Sorry.
And you know what made Womp Womp so great is, for me at least, is the Tubas created it while we were in school. Like while I was in school, the Tubas created it and they had their songs and the lyrics and everything. And it was Who We Talking About, and it was the MFN Cougars. And we did not say MFN. We said the words. Okay.
It's all the letters in between.
And we, and they told us, like, you got to quit saying that. People are complaining, which, good job. And we kept doing it because we're 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. We're going to say that, right? And they kept saying, you got to say, talking about, right? Eventually, it got so bad that they told the band they couldn't play it anymore. Like, for, like, one football season, there was no Womp Womp after Womp Womp was created because they were told they can't play it anymore because literally half the stadium was saying the F word and screaming. It's like, it was like Neck at LSU, except like not as big, right? It's not the long-standing tradition that Neck is at LSU. Now it might be, right? But yeah, we couldn't, like, literally the Tubas couldn't play it. They weren't allowed to play it. Like, they'd get in trouble. So the Womp Womp always has a nice soft spot in my heart there because we refused to fix it and then one day we showed up to a game and they played it and we kept playing. So
I can be totally imagining it, but I want to say it was actually the first season at TDSU 2014.
It might have been
stopped because I know for sure they played it during the 2015. Like, we have plenty of former, even some current, like, Spirit of Houston listeners. So I'm sure I'm wrong on the details, but my vague memory was it for sure was played during the 2015 season. Like, that was such a big part of that, the best Cougar football season in the last 20-something, 30-something, 40-something years. You know?
All right, you ready? Your fourth song, and I think I know where this one's going, is going to be Horse.
See, that's actually the one I kind of, because I just have, like, it's kind of like, we kind of make fun of it, you and I, but
it's fun.
It's fun. And like, it just, I hear that song and I think like I'm going to a Cougar football game with my friend. Like, I have so many games, various other friends. Yeah. And I'm doing a square clap here in the video. Bobby's doing a square clap here. Like, that's actually the song when I said earlier, like, I think I might have overranked Hustlin'. Like, I hate that I'm going to put the song 4. So I'm going to put it 4 because that's the highest spot I could put it in here. But
okay.
I really wish I'd thought a little bit more about the first one you said and at least allowed this one to be 3 because I genuinely enjoy the Horse. It's like it's part of the pregame, it's part of the during the game. Like, is it kind of silly, but it's like it's our song, you know?
Yeah. I remember I was working at a car dealership doing marketing there, and I'm sitting at my desk one day and they play like calming music and radio, that kind of stuff. And I hear it's very faint. And I just hear da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. And I was like, and then I started sitting at my desk and I'm like, da-da-da-da-da. And I got the Cougar Paws going.
Activated. You're like one of those sleep rages activated. You start doing the square clap.
Exactly. I was like, oh no. When it ended, I like shook my head. I woke up, shook the cobwebs out. Now, number 5. This is your number 5 song. Okay.
I have no choice but it was 5.
The Alma Mater.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a good alma mater. I'll sing it if I'm in person at the arena or stadium that a Cougar sport event is happening. I'll sing it. I'm not trying. I don't want to make it seem like I'm setting it up to just crap on it. It's fine, yeah. But it doesn't sound to me like you have the Olympic fanfare at the beginning, which I believe was like a creation, which I think is cool. Like, I believe we did the Olympic fanfare first, or we were the originators of it,
after Carl Lewis. We did it when Carl Lewis became like the Olympian. That's when it kind of started playing.
Yeah. Other than that, though, it's not like I don't think if you. I don't think it's. I think a lot of alma maters to me sound the same. You could probably say the same about fight songs, but I don't know. Like, it is not for me. I have no regrets putting this 5, even though I enjoy it. We'll sing along to it. Don't have any specific dislike of it. It's alma mater's going at 5 for me, and I unlike a lot of the songs we've ranked, I don't feel too bad about it.
Okay, so let's go through your ranking here. We have Womp Womp number 1, the fight song at number 2, Hustlin' at 3, Horse at 4, the Alma Mater at 5. What would you change?
I would for sure move Horse to 3 and Hustle into 4. Like
Okay.
the band does a good version of it. This is not a knock on it,
Mhm.
but for me, like I said, it is more associated with me as an over the loudspeakers thing versus like
Okay.
I expect like the Horse, the fight song, like those are songs when I hear it in my mind's eye, I hear it from a University of Houston sanctioned band.
I gotcha. Okay, so that
that's
was
the only thing I
segment.
changed there.
That was the segment. Shout out friend of the pod, Bill, for helping me come up with the 5th song. I had the other option I had kind of rolling around my head. There were 2. Bill came in clutch with Hustlin', and he came in with Still Fly, because they've been playing that a lot too. Great song.
I don't think I need to say the other 5, but it was a good submission.
The other one I had in my head, but I felt like it was too easy of a 5 for you, was the touchdown fanfare pregame. Da-na-na, go Coogs, da-na-na, go Coogs.
It's fine. I enjoy it, but I wouldn't put it above any of
that. But I knew Hustling would have like a little bit of a yeah. So that's the segment. I just thought it'd be a little fun this week when we don't have a ton going on.
Yeah, I am not trying to flatter you on air for the benefit of our podcast by saying I enjoyed that very much. It was a very good idea, buddy. I don't have any regrets about doing a segment that I had no idea what it was going to be going in. That was very enjoyable.
There we go.
I'd made the joke about the Rangers earlier. I'm like, oh man, am I setting myself up for even more pain here? Like, is he going to be extra malicious to me on this one?
No, sir. No, sir.
Good. That was very good.
Good.
So we're gonna close this. I've had a lot of tough segues to do over the time doing this podcast, even though Dustin was the one doing more of the segues prior to the season. But we're going to close tonight by talking about a sport that we haven't talked about on this show, at least in the context of its specific on-field results, in about a year. Almost exactly a year today, Bobby. So from that information, you could probably deduce that we are talking about the Houston Cougar softball program, which just finished its 2025 regular season this past weekend. I don't think this number represents very many people, Bobby, but if you'll allow me, because everyone starts listening to a show at a different point, and I won't assume this number is 0 people. If you're just like, and again, I don't think this is very many of you, if you're just like, well, why haven't they talked about Cougar softball this season? Probably briefly catch up anyone who's unaware, has wondered about this, because after the 2024 season, we received information from a number of different team sources that longtime head coach Kristin Vesely had allowed and even participated in the creation of a really toxic and unpleasant culture in the Cougar softball program. We covered it last summer in our previous season with episodes 946 and 950. This would be further back in your feed, but if you have not listened to that, not happy subject matter, but I'm proud of the work that the 3 of us, you, me, and co-host Emeritus Dustin, did on it. Quick summary of the things we talked about. Vesely allowed a player who'd previously behaved erratically and aggressively to carry a handgun on team road trips, refused to take any action when other members of the team reported this repeatedly. That Vesely often worked in tandem with her theoretical direct report in the athletic department, Dewana Shizer, to retaliate against any softball athlete who tried to go through the proper chain of command and express issues in the program. Vesely also did stuff like restricting players' food consumption, counter to the wishes of the school nutritionist, and in a way that the players of the team knew either from experience or just knowing people was very unusual for standard practice. In a D1 softball program, Vesely also accused of abusing players verbally, for getting injured, making those players play injured, also for being under or overweight in her view, and just doing petty tyrant stuff like making players who couldn't pass a one-size-fits-all conditioning test, not allowing those players to have a team locker and make them store their belongings in the locker room floor, overruling assistant coaches on stuff, kind of petty tyrant stuff. Just the hallmark of a program with a bad culture and a leader who did not receive much in the way of accountability from the athletic department, whether that was from Dewana Shizer or then athletics director Chris Pesman. So at the time of recording last summer, there was uncertainty about whether Vesely would be back. Her only publicly available contract had her only in the job until July 31st of last year. Eventually, I believe after the recording of both episodes, we did find out that Vesely and Chris Pesman had signed a 1-year extension after the 2023 season, which was not fully executed by university leadership until last summer, thus not available for public records requests like among the ones we filed in the weeks leading up to U of H making that 1-year extension public. And complicating things was also, during the middle of this stuff, was Chris Pesma got fired within a few weeks of us breaking the story, though not necessarily related to that directly. Bobby, did I miss anything important? Because you get 5-minute summary of something that's hard to summarize in 5 minutes, but would you like to add anything onto that quick summary of why we have not talked about Cougar softball up until this point?
No, man, I think that's pretty good. I think the only thing I would add is all of those reasons are why we didn't cover, but also they were just bad at softball.
And we'll say, once it became clear at the start of this current athletics year that U of H and new athletic director Eddie Nunez were going to take the path of least resistance instead of doing what's right here, I think we made an editorial decision between the two of us that we wouldn't be talking any in-season U of H softball on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, if we had some big off-season news in any sport come up in the past week, decent chance we're not doing this. But this was enough of a light news week. Not that there wasn't plenty to talk about in the cool segment we just did before, but because Cougar softball's regular season is done, and there's a good chance by the time you, the listener, are hearing this, the team's conference postseason trip will be done. We're talking about Cougar softball. And in the broadest sense, Bobby, this season basically went how we expected to, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. If you look at everything that you expected kind of coming into this season, it's the same story repeated. You're going to be able to hit the ball pretty well. You're not going to be able to stop anybody. Your pitchers are going to give up a bajillion runs. And Sam, spoiler alert, that's pretty much what happened this year.
Yeah, you're picked dead last in the preseason. Finished the regular season 4-18 in Big 12 play, solely in dead last in the Big 12 standings. Have now gone a combined 8-41 in 2 seasons competing as a Big 12 softball program. And the Big 12 is still a very good softball league, but you take OU and UT Austin out of it, less of a murderer's row than it was last season, and you still weren't any better meaningfully. 5th season in a row, this program has finished with a non-winning overall record. That's maybe the craziest stat to me.
That's insane.
U of H softball hasn't finished a season with more wins than losses, a completed season, because technically in the 2020 season you finished with like 16-6 or something like that, but that was like maybe a third of a season. You haven't finished a season with more wins than losses since the spring of fucking 2019. And you said it. Same general issues as a lot of the seasons prior. Can't pitch consistently well enough to be anything better than the worst Big 12 team. You did improve your ERA somewhat from last year's absolutely horrific numbers, but team had a 5.38 ERA, which is 245th in Division I, dead last in the Big 12. A 5.38 baseball staff ERA wouldn't be amazing, but you'd actually be around the top 100 in Division I in that sport. A 5.38 college softball ERA is terrible. And that's been a pretty common problem. Like the last U of H team to pitch really well was the last postseason team, 2019. And you got some decent pitching from Kenna Wilkie and Hannah Todd 2 or 3 seasons ago, but it's supposed to have been your problem since the last time you went to the postseason. And this season is a waste in a lot of different senses, but you have maybe the best freshman in the entire athletic department playing for you this season in Brooke Wells. It is a shame, for as much as the team results weren't really that great, like Brooke Wells had one of the better U of H softball hitting seasons, regardless of grade classification. One of the best freshman seasons ever in program history. 348, 10 home runs, led the team in a bunch of offensive categories. Sophomore Jordy Wilkins, a little bit more of a slap hitter. She had a really good spring as well. Coogs did pretty well as a team this year. Like you said, you just can't build a college softball team around being a good hitting team and unreliable pitching team. That's just not how the sport works.
It's insane. I pulled up some stats just so while we're sitting here talking, I can just kind of refresh my brain on stats. Sam, do you know what opposing teams hit against this Cougar pitching staff? What their average was?
Because I looked at the same thing, and I don't have it in front of me, but was it 300 on the money?
It's 300.
Softball is a much more pitching dominated sport than baseball.
It's so
not
bad
exclusively.
softball.
Yeah.
It's so bad for softball. It's so bad.
And you hear things like we heard about just Vesely be micromanaging the pitching coach, despite never being a pitching coach or a pitcher in her college career, like frequently undermined the various pitching coaches. Our current pitching coach, Hope Troutline, was a great college pitcher as recently as like 2 or 3 years ago, but like this is our first college, like you were getting a first time college assistant coach because, quite frankly, why would you want to work for Kristin Vesely? Like, just from what we've told by so many different people, players and former staffers, why would you work for Kristin Vesely? And let's just say hypothetically, Bobby, Kristin Vesely was like in her 3rd season at U of H, hadn't been accused of everything we laid out earlier. You're patient. I think you see in that very different than the reality hypothetical if that coach can figure things out. But Eddie Nunez really should have the easiest decision in the world not to offer Vesely a new contract. I think probably the easiest decision he'll ever have as an athletic director, whether, here, his past job in New Mexico, any future job he might occupy after here. Incredibly easy decisions. You don't even have to, when you make this decision, you don't even have to make any allusions to the stuff we talked about. You don't have to acknowledge it because God knows U of H has done everything in its power not to acknowledge it prior. You could just say, we're going in a different direction. Thank everyone for their time and do what you did for women's basketball, though. I want to be clear, we have never heard anything about this when it comes to former head coach Ron Huey. And just get your fan base to actually care about softball again by bringing in a new leader. I don't think you should be knee-jerk or cavalier in firing head coaches, but I think this is an insanely easy decision that Eddie Nunez has in front of him.
Man, for me, it's if I put away all the accusations, it's just bad softball. Like to your point, you take away all the allegations and everything that we reported on. This coach should still not be the head coach of this softball team. I think it's honestly one of the sadder downfalls of one of these programs. I remember when I was in school, we used to go to softball all the time.
We're so good.
We hosted a super, dude. Like, this team was competitive. It got big transfers back when there weren't transfers. What was her name from Ooh La La? I'm blanking all of a sudden.
Was she a pitcher or a hitter?
Yes, pitcher.
Donna Bourgeois?
Donna Bourgeois. She was an amazing pitcher at Ooh La La, and she transferred to U of H because she said she was basically like, I want a chance to go to supers and I want to do this. Not that Ooh La La wasn't a good program. Ooh La La was
actually eliminated us from one of those 2 supers in 2008.
Yeah. But you bring her like, and now it just doesn't matter. Like, this program is just so irrelevant, and it didn't used to be that way. Like, you used to get excited for softball. It was like, oh man, I traveled to watch softball. Granted, it was to Waco and I was going to see my parents, but like, me and some friends went on a road trip because we were like, man, this team's pretty good. We can go see Bobby's parents. We can kind of hang out. I think there was something else going on, and it was just like, yeah, let's go do that. And 5 of us got into a car and we went to Waco for the weekend, and my mom fed everybody. We had a great time. And it's like, I couldn't imagine doing that for softball now. Even if you take all the allegations away, and I'm giving a lot of grace when I say that, like, if you take all that away, this is just a bad softball team, and this coach has been here far too long for this team to be this bad. I understand there's a step up in competition. You're going to see that. But at least with baseball, we saw you get better, right? Like, not saying that Whitting should keep his job or anything crazy like that, or, what does it look? At least there's progress, man. At least we're seeing something. We're seeing some positive. There's something to take away from it. This softball program has just become so, it's not fun to watch. You had the excitement of the UT win last year, but that quickly faded. And it's just really sad to see where this program has gone to.
It's what we said 12 months ago before any of the allegations were anything more to us than very vague, infrequent innuendos. Like, we were just like, at the time, we were just like, well, just doesn't seem to be working for purely softball reasons for this coach.
Yeah, how many times have we said
this wasn't a good AAC program? That's the thing. Like,
yeah.
You weren't the worst AAC program, but you were kind of a lower middle of the AAC program. And shocker, go to a much harder league and you've been by far the worst team.
Well, it's like we said before last season. Look, we're not softball experts. We know a little bit about softball. We watch it a little bit, but we could see as casual observers that the way this team was built was going to be terrible. We were like, we're going to hit a bunch and hopefully somebody comes in and can be a starter force and shut people down. And it just didn't happen. Anybody who knows softball even a little bit and knows how pitcher dominant softball is was like, yeah, I don't know kind of what they're doing here.
If Eddie Nunez has it in his head, like, well, it's a young team. Like, we want to try to keep Brooke Wells around here. Like, I don't know, man. Like, if you're like Texas Tech just plucked Stanford's best pitcher, I'm not saying
go do that.
That Brooke Wells is worth as much as Nigel Kennedy was, but like, there are programs that will spend on NIL and softball. I don't know how, if you're one of those programs, you don't look at Brooke Wells on a bad team that probably isn't offering much, if any, NIL and saying, we could get Brooke Wells at 5 or 6 in our lineup, insert name of SEC contender here for not that much. Like and probably same for Jordy Wilkins. Like there are good players in this team that I don't know why those good players wouldn't consider moves to bigger names in the offseason, which is it's pretty common these days. And
yep.
I just I don't see any kind of justification for on an expiring deal bringing back this coach. Like you are going to like there is a certain segment of this fan base that just they're football, men's basketball fans, and getting them to care about softball. I'm not gonna say it's a lost cause, but you're not gonna really get them out of that football, men's basketball mode. I don't know what the percentage is, but
which happens with a lot of programs.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying U of H is unique in that regard, but like the people that are at least somewhat predisposed to care about a non-football men's basketball sport, I'm not gonna say all of them are, but I saw the downloads. It was like 9-10 times our normal listening downloads for the episodes about the softball program. A lot of people who might otherwise care about this program heard from what we reported just what a terrible place it is to play, and also, or at least probably vaguely aware, the team hasn't been good in a long time.
Yep.
I've said it a bunch. Should be the easiest decision in the world for Eddie Nunez to in 2 to 3 days, because the Cougars play BYU tomorrow pretty early in OKC. Not that they couldn't possibly win it, but I would venture to guess this will be an 0-for-1 Big 12 tournament for the second year in a row, and hopefully in 48 to 72 hours, we get a statement from U of H about the two parties going their separate ways.
I agree.
I wish I was confident enough to guarantee it, but say it for the 100th time, seems like a very easy decision.
Yep.
All right, Bobby, take us home.
All right, well, ending on that great note, I guess. No, but ending on that, we appreciate you guys listening, especially all of you who have sat through game night with Sam and I, softball talk and everything. You've spent a good hour with us, so we appreciate you a ton. You are our favorite people. Just some little housekeeping before we send you off into the night. You can follow us on social media platforms. So on Twitter, we are SH Podcast, and you can find us on Blue Sky at podcast.bsky.social. You can find us there. You can reach out to us with any feedback or anything like that. We will take it. If you have sworn off social media, congrats to you. Good on you. Especially if that was like your New Year's resolution, you've stuck to it and it's May. Great job. You can email us at shpodcast@gmail.com if you have any information for us, you want to give us any feedback, anything like that, you can always reach us there as well. We also have a Patreon that we use pretty much to fund this. Sam and I don't make much money off of it. If anything, the money we do make goes to buying U of H gear or tickets to games that we can talk about with you guys to bring to the podcast, but mainly it is for hosting and it is for any equipment that we may need. So we really appreciate that. For $5 a month, you can get some premium episodes. If you want to donate more, Sam and I would be more than appreciative for that. If you have $10 million and you want us to call the podcast whatever you want us to call it, we are more than happy to do that as well. That's not something we have officially spoken about together, but I'm going to make an assumption here. So,
Correct one.
But that is it for us this week. Sam, what do we always say, buddy?
Go Coogs.
All right. Go Coogs! Let's go!